The LSD use was a fundamental building block in a new way of thinking, in a new community. Why do we have war? What is the power of love? Who is God and why is he here? And what has he done for me lately anyway? I mean, these were questions that were being debated by young people who were just growing into their bodies and their minds and their selves.
We really thought that drugs were going to change the world. We really did. We thought if you turned on, if you took acid, you would really change because we had changed from those experiences. Experiences of cosmic oneness, where I truly felt I was no different than you, I was no different than my black friends, I was no different than anyone who lived in any other part of the world, nor was I that different than my dog. God lived inside all of us is a cliched way of putting it.
You were going through a door, and you wanted to be in the rooms on the other side of that door. You wanted to know what was there, and you wanted to take that knowledge back with you.
There's a sense of being in communion with powers greater than yourself and intelligence which far outstrips the human mind, and energies which are very ancient. You have a sense of being brought into God's workshop, and or that the veil is pulled away, and for the first time you see how things really are.
Hey, you know, we're trying to learn to live better and to think better and to be better human beings and to be a better race and to be a better civilization and to make this whole thing work.
What we're thinking about is a peaceful planet. We're not thinking about anything else. We're not thinking about any kind of power. We're not thinking about any of those kind of struggles. We're not thinking about revolution or war or any of that. We would all like to be able to live an uncluttered life, a simple life, a good life, you know, and like think about moving the whole human race ahead a step.
And one of the ways of achieving that being is through drugs.
I think, personally, that the more people turn on, the better world it's going to be.
See that girl barefoot in the lawn, whistling and singing, she's carrying on, and laughing in her eyes.
The music changed just immediately. I cannot explain to you what it's like to be in a crowd of 5,000 people on LSD with a Grateful Dead also on LSD, leading the crowd through a series of improvisations. And before that, rock and roll songs for 3 minutes. Period, paragraph, we're out of here.
One of the peculiar things about LSD was that for a very long time it was legal. It seemed illegal. I mean, it was so wild, you figured that if anybody hears about this, they're definitely going to make it illegal.
Well, I'm terribly frightened by the problem with LSD. I think there's been a great deal of misinformation by those who seem to see no harm in it, that I think our only hope lies in a concerted effort of education so that young people will be aware that there is nothing smart, there's nothing grown up or sophisticated in taking an LSD trip at all. They're just being complete fools.
California did make LSD illegal on October 6, 1966. The hippies openly flaunted the new law with a love pageant rally in the Haight and their own Declaration of Independence. The creation endows us with certain inalienable rights, it read, that among these are the freedom of body, the pursuit of joy, and the expansion of consciousness. On the heels of the love pageant, a group of anarchist street performers called the Diggers began distributing free food.
We're trying to start a pilot program here. It's called a Digger Feed-In. You go home, you cook whatever you can cook at your kitchen, and you bring it out and you serve it to hungry people on the street, you know? And if everybody does it, we'll all have a ball, you know?
The street theater that we had been doing was now going to be acted out as an alternative society where food, shelter, entertainment was going to be free without ideology.
The diggers salvaged food from restaurant and supermarket overflow, prepared it in their communal kitchen, and brought it twice a day to the park.
I used to go to the wholesale produce markets and get produce for the free food that we did. Unbelievable amounts of food were thrown away. I remember once there were crates and crates and crates of cantaloupes that came in. They didn't quite meet the standards for sweetness. They couldn't be sold. They stood in back of the produce market. We came there twice a week. We picked up 10 cases every time we came.
For the diggers, the free feed-ins also served to push people to examine their own values.
We were looking for the people driving by, going to work, who would see people gathered in the park eating food free, and that this would provoke them, provoke their idea of what they were doing by going to work.
We thought culture is much more important than politics. Let's just start getting people living the way they want to live. You want to live in a world where you don't have to work? Let's make it. You want to live in a world where you can get food for free? Let's make it. You want to live in a house with, lots of women and men and live the way you want? Let's do it. Let's make the world that you imagine real by acting it out. And if you can act it out, it's real.
In December, the diggers dramatized another hippie belief, that the pursuit of money interfered with a fulfilling life. They staged a happening. They called it the death of money.
People dressed in animal heads took huge pieces of money, stage money, and put them in and out of an enormous coffin in a march down Haight Street, singing, "Get out my life, why don't you, babe?" to Chopin's Death March. And it went, "Get out my life, why don't you, babe?"
We certainly, on some level, thought money was the root of all evil, and thought having a lot of money was not a good thing for your soul.
We were not living without money because we had lots of it, and it made it easy. We were living without money because we wanted our time, and we wanted to be authentic, and we didn't want to get jobs.
The be-in in January 1967 put San Francisco's hippies in the national spotlight for the first time. While beatniks wanted the world to leave them alone, the New York Times said the new hippies want to change the world. Newsweek wrote of their regimen of all-embracing love, nonviolent, mystical, and bizarre. These stories of hippies resonated with young people across the country.
The Boston Globe had pictures of Haight Street, pictures of people dancing. And I can remember saying, I thought, oh, look, everybody looks so happy. And I'm thinking, oh, I'd really like to go there.
Sandy Stein was only 13, questioning and impressionable. She anguished over the grief that permeated her Boston neighborhood because of the Vietnam War.
When somebody was killed in Vietnam, they would put a flag in the window, and there was not a block that you could walk in that a working class, middle class neighborhood that you didn't see flags in the windows. And my home was full of fighting, arguing, and so I think also that those ideas of peace and love were wonderful, that looked good.
San Francisco looked good, too, to Claudia King. At 23, she was frustrated with the slow pace of civil rights gains she'd been working on since high school in Chicago.
Every time an idea came up, it would be, okay, how are you going to fund this? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And, I was young. I wanted heaven now, and I really believe that it should just change, and we should all smarten up and do better. I was really ready to go to the Haight-Ashbury.
So was Phil Morningstar, a restless teenager living in a conservative town east of Los Angeles.
It was a semi-rural area, kind of Southern California Bible Belt. And I was reading Berkeley Barb, the SF Oracle. And I was looking at all of that stuff, and they're talking about, you know, crash pads, free food. And my father was very intolerant of any views that disagreed with him. And so at 14, I took a walk down to Greyhound bus station and bought a bus ticket. Next stop, San Francisco.
In March, hundreds of kids on spring break flooded into the Haight.
They heard by word of mouth. I mean, if you went to one of the great public events like the rock dances, you would meet people. And they would say, hey, man, you gotta come to the Haight, man. It's really beautiful there.
Kids were looking at pictures of kids like them, sitting on the stoops, cupping a joint, looking around for the cops, and saying, holy cow, people are living free in San Francisco. And they came out here to invent whatever that meant to them.
Everybody had a different entrance point. Some people came in because of the sexual liberation prospects. Some people came in because of the appeal of the music. Some people came in because they were angry and scared about the draft and the war. But once you were in that vortex, once you were in that swirling miasma of social and personal change, all the doors were open.